where you stream to watch that, watch this, and I'll dive down through this hairy flesh and ever running.
Hi, I'm CJ Johnson. Welcome to Watch This. This week, Jim Flanagan and I will spend the whole episode looking at the eagerly awaited Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Are you with me?
All the way.
Hi, Jim.
CJ, how you doing? I'm feeling incredibly underdressed
Are
today.
you full of the Christmas spirit?
Look, clearly, yes. Not as much as you.
I am full of the Christmas spirit.
I'm feeling a little inadequate, but we'll press on anyway.
I might take this off now, just because I think it might make me sweat.
Possibly.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is the first of Disney's new standalone spin-off film set in the Star Wars universe, but not part of their new trilogy. That, in other words, the ones without Luke Skywalker, etc. It's set prior to the events of the 1977 film A New Hope. It's set in the lead up to those events. It involves plans to steal the plans for the Death Star, and it's been directed by Gareth Edwards. It has opened in Australia and is opening very shortly across the United States and the rest of the world.
It is, yeah. And look, I was looking forward to this a lot. I was very curious to see how they were going to frame these side stories and kind of squeeze them in amongst the official releases. I enjoyed the Abrams reboot a lot, and I was a first generation hyper Star Wars geek as a child. So it is a bit of a black spot in my cultural upbringing. I enjoyed it a lot, but I think we're completely aligned in that I was surprised at how light a go the international press gave
the first one.
Yeah.
The Force Awakens looked like a Star Wars movie in a way that the three middle films did not. And that carries over into Rogue One. Rogue One also, it has the grain of 1977. It has the look and sound and smell, and it's not just the practical droids, although the practical droids do go a long way into giving it. There is something about it. These two films both replicate George Lucas's style.
I agree.
Of storytelling.
But they not only replicate it, they do something more interesting than that. And while we're just still talking about the technicalities and before we kind of talk about what we think of it, I think that's a really, really interesting point with both of the films, because it's a little bit like the way that a lot of contemporary electronic musicians use vintage synths to reproduce older historical sounds and then use contemporary digital technologies to then add new and innovative and unheard of sounds. And I think both films are technical marvels in the way that they do that. They find a way of using those analog vintage 70s type effects and those screens they use in the Rebel Stars and all of the Death Star kind of iconography and Rebel architecture. They riff on the 70s and 80s analog technology, but they add these lovely digital contemporary details to them and reinvent them for a modern audience. I love the way that how much thought they've put into the production design. I think they absolutely nail that in both films.
And it's nice that they're doing it, because they're doing it for us, because 14-year-olds did not see these movies in 1977, 1980, 1982. They didn't. So they're really doing it for the older guys, for people, for the older people, you know? It's quite lovely. I preferred Rogue One to The Force Awakens.
Okay, so let's talk about what did you think about it? What did you think about it as a film?
I loved it from start to finish.
Okay.
Because it was unburdened by all the expectations Force Awakens had, and because it didn't need to pay all that fan service.
To the mythology and the iconography of the Star Wars universe.
It was fresher. You know, The Force Awakens, as we've just said, felt like a remake or a retread, whereas this was a fresh story. And it took one of the great ideas Hollywood has thrown up. It's the Dirty Dozen idea. It's the idea of a small band of likable rebels who've got strong hearts, but very little in the way of actual numbers, taking on, you know, essentially a castle full of Nazis.
A big bully.
Yeah, a big bully. Well, Nazis, they've always been the Nazis. Stormtroopers, you know, and that's the plot of this film. It's like the Dirty Dozen, and it worked very effectively. It was contained. And I very much bought into the developing relationship of our two leads, played by Felicity Price and
the Hispanic actor. I've just forgotten his name.
Diego Luna.
Yes, sorry, I knew it started with an L.
There was a very nice slow burn between them that I bought into. As they fell for each other, I fell for them, and the second hour of the movie is just an immaculately conceived raid.
Giant set piece.
That was just beautiful. And as you can see behind us,
Yeah.
as the snowbound Hoth sequence was to Empire Strikes Back, this is like, you know, Star Wars in Fiji, Star Wars in Paradise, and that was interesting.
It's very Fiji, actually. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that we're going to at least partially disagree here. I had a slightly different response. Look, I enjoyed The Force Awakens a lot. I enjoyed this a little less.
Oh, interesting.
As a film. I loved the start of this film, and you know, and there was all of this chatter throughout the year, you know, as Gareth Edwards was finishing this about, it's going to be really, really dark and it's a war movie, and the big bad nasty studio is interfering with that, and there are reshoots, but don't worry, it's still going to be a dark and tortured war movie. And I really liked the setup, which is really quite gritty, and there are a lot of shots early on of sort of stormtroopers covered in dirt and mark, and then we're introduced to these really compromised rebel characters who are forced to do terrible, awful things for the Rebel Alliance. And I love the start, and I thought it sort of finished like that as well. And I thought the last reel and the resolution was really quite surprising. The middle section I found quite kind of generic at times, and Gareth Edwards is clearly a really, really accomplished technical technician. I don't think he's so good with the actors and the characters, and I was pretty bored by all of the characters in this. There was no one that I really gave much of a crap about in this film, and you didn't buy into the story between the two. I did, and look, it won me back in the last 25 minutes, absolutely. The
last 25 minutes are pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're quite lovely, actually, and surprising. But I struggled with the middle hour of this film quite a lot. I still enjoyed it. It was just sort of new Star Wars post Abrams generic, a little too much for me.
I very much liked I liked that it was its own story, but then I also liked, because it's set in the year leading up to the first film, or the months leading up.
5 minutes leading up to the...
Well, yeah. I guess, look,
sorry,
we might get a little spoilery here, we can't help it, so if you feel like we're spoiling it for you, you might want to either stop now, see it, and come back to this episode, or fast forward past this
or
bit.
Blame me retrospectively.
Or blame Jim retrospectively. It does go right up to 5 minutes before the first one begins, before A New Hope begins. And I loved that. I thought that was brilliant. And I guess this film takes place in the months leading up to it, you know, starting from the beginning. And I liked that. And I liked how they gradually introduced some of the big bads from the first one.
Yes.
And I think we
quite in a quite a subtle, short way as well.
But I think we have to talk about a technical marvel, which is they brought back Peter Cushing, who died in 1994, from the dead, and not just in a moment. He had entire scenes with swaths of dialogue, and I thought there was some uncanny valley going on, because of course they can't let digital images sit still. And Peter Cushing was a still actor.
He certainly was.
So in this one he had to move constantly, because otherwise he would look like binary code. But I bet you if you showed it to a 14-year-old, they would not know that was a computer-generated actor.
They probably wouldn't, but I didn't like that decision at all.
Oh, you didn't?
As a viewer, and I found it really distracting.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
Did you?
and I saw it with people who liked it as well.
Right.
Look, I think digital technology has come a long, long way. I think you can still tell immediately when there's a digital character in front of you.
And this is a digital human being.
Exactly. Yeah. I found it distracting.
Did you?
It largely works, but it regularly annoyed me.
Would you have found it distracting if you didn't know who Peter Cushing was?
No.
Do you think you would have known it was a digital effect?
I think I would have felt I found it technically distracting rather than the fact that there's a Peter Cushing clone in front of me for 2 and a bit hours.
Obviously, Darth Vader's back in it.
Yep.
James Earl Jones is back as the voice.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. I wasn't hugely enamored of any of the central characters. I liked some of the supporting cast, and I liked having James Earl Jones' sort of gravitas back. I also there are some nice surprises in the support cast. I really liked the two sort of quasi Jedi, but not by name masters, played by Donnie Yen and Yang Wan, who are huge, fantastic Hong Kong and Chinese actors and directors.
I loved them.
And a lot of this sort of Force dramatic gravitas really comes from those two. And it's a really imaginative, idiosyncratic way to sort of render that, I think.
And the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
The heart. Because there's so much on the mind of young Jin, played by Felicity Price. I mean, her father has gone missing and has designed a genocide machine.
Yeah.
So she's got a lot on her mind.
Yeah.
And the Diego Luna character, Cassian, in my favorite line of dialogue from the film, he's like, I have been fighting the rebellion since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got a lot on his mind. So they're almost too cold until sort of the final reel to show much heart. And it's those two Asian actors who have the most heart. Now, I have to ask you this question. Do you think they were meant to be gay for each other?
Wow. Look, I
wondered if they were actually a sort of mature age gay
Look, there's
couple.
no reason why Rogue One can't be an open text, CJ. You can take whatever you need to take from narrative wise from their relationship. I think it's lovely and beautiful that you've chosen to take that. Personally, I didn't come away wondering about the nature of their romantic relationship. It was a romance, man. These guys had each other's backs.
They did,
you know,
but they could have been a couple.
Oh, sure. And it's 2016, so we don't need to make a big deal of that. Yeah, the minor characters to me were where the real joy was in this film. The two leads largely run around looking tortured and exhausted and compromised for most of the film. And there are a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the best lines are delivered in this film by a droid that played by
Alan
Tudyk.
Doing an English accent.
And doing a really good English accent.
I know. They got an American actor to do the voice of a droid in an English accent.
He does a lot of villain work with an English accent on
he does a perfect English
films.
accent. It's fine.
And he's very good. He's always been a good actor.
The droid is called like D2SO or 2DSO or something. It's deliberately not cute either in form or in name. You know, R2D2, C3PO, but this droid's name is not an easy one, and he's not easy to look at. He's ugly.
Yeah.
And that's deliberate. This film avoids the cute.
Yes.
You know, there's no Ewok in this film.
No.
Even the little creatures that aren't humans, that are rebels, are ugly.
Yes.
You know, like the fishmen, you know.
But and that was sort of what I meant. I think that the first half an hour is really consistent with that sort of gritty new approach that Gareth Edwards was clearly going for.
Yeah.
As is the last reel. There's just this uncomfortable mid-period where it's more sort of generic, wacky Abrams wink dialogue that is it's just a bit kind of tonally inconsistent with the beginning and the end, I think. And I
agree with you.
When you have a film where a lot of the best lines are delivered by a droid, you've got problems.
Yeah, I liked the droid though.
Yeah, no, so did I. And he has this really nice sort of delayed, deadpan punchline delivery that he uses consistently.
And also, spoiler alert, minor league, he kicks ass.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
He's unlike C3PO and R2D2. He kicks. He kills troopers.
Yeah.
I hate using the word dark. Oh, this one's dark. It's the second one, so it's dark.
Yeah, it's very
so let's avoid that.
simplistic.
But this one was refreshingly much less full of jokes than The Force Awakens.
Yep.
The Force Awakens had so many jokes that it was almost a comedy.
Yeah.
And this had very few deliberate jokes. This was much more of a war movie and much less of a humorous movie.
And I think you're right in that is at least partially driven by the fact that he was clearly given scope to make a film that wasn't as harnessed and straitjacketed by the need to constantly reference the mythology and the iconography that the official continuation of the story was with The Force Awakens. So he doesn't need to be constantly reintroducing old characters and references. Although he still finds a lot of clever, enjoyable ways to do that, I think. And there are a handful of blink and you miss it references to characters from the original trilogy.
Oh yeah.
But I think you're right. I think because he was given more scope to craft his own standalone film, that allowed him to kind of develop his own tone within the film. And to me, it's a little bit inconsistent, but it is still refreshing that it is still of its own film. And it's very, very... I found the first 2 minutes of this film fascinating because it's very clearly positioned as a separate beast to the official series.
No crawl. No Star Wars going like that.
Exactly. No John Williams score. There's the Michael... And that was a little bit of a problem to me. And this is Michael Giacchino's score, who's a long-term collaborator of J.J. Abrams. And I really struggled with this. I'm a bit of a film music geek. And I really struggled with this score because A, it doesn't have the gravitas and the power of the John Williams score. Yeah. But that's fine. Make up your own. But what we have instead is this sort of second-rate imitation of the Williams score.
Yeah, it's Williams-esque. It's Star Wars-esque.
It's Diet Williams.
Because it uses the same instrumentation.
Yes.
But it's not...
A lot of brass and horns on the bottom end.
But later on, it's not till late in the movie, but late in the movie they do allow you to hear the Imperial theme, and then they finally allow you to hear the Star Wars theme.
Yes. Fleetingly,
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm glad you mentioned the score because I wanted to mention that it is interesting and it does set up this film as removed from the whole thing. I guess I agree with you. The first half, I thought was fine to very good, but it was the second half that thrilled me and moved me to tears. And it's all about this stuff. It's the fact that this was a blue sky one. It was so different that it wasn't taking place against the dark of space or inside, that it was this sort of this tropical island that was so refreshing and new. Blue skies, lagoons, palm trees, stormtroopers with palm trees and laser guns with palm trees was so fascinating to me. And also that whole hour, which was essentially, as I say, the raid of the rebels on the Nazi castle, essentially, was just so well done. You knew where everyone was at every time. They said, this is the plan, and then they followed it through. And the way they maneuvered around that whatever what do you want to call it, that camp, and the way it was all done was seamless and perfect to me. I just was thrilled by it all.
I completely agree with that. It's a really great set piece, and it has a really great sense of place. Yeah. And you always know, that's exactly right. Unlike the way that a lot of contemporary action cinema is shot, there are a lot of long shots. There's a very well-grounded sense of where everyone is all of the time. It's really well edited, and it is a really, really super extensive fight sequence, effectively.
I'm going to mention one more moment, kind of a spoiler alert. The last, I won't say what happens, but the last scene you see of Darth Vader in the film was mind-blowingly amazing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When he walked out.
I think we should just talk about it and sort of spoil us. It's basically Darth Vader opening a can
of whoop-ass
on the rebels in a way that we've never seen.
We've never seen him do. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, that's what Darth Vader is capable of.
There. Yeah, no, it's very fun.
Wasn't it cool?
It was great. One little thing from me. What the hell was Forrest Whitaker doing in this film?
I don't know, to the point where you could cut him out and it wouldn't matter.
Well, and this bizarre sort of imitation Dennis Hopper, Blue Velvet, oxygen-sucking reference.
This is my theory.
Mania.
He's in 2 movies this year of big note, this and Arrival, and in both of them he's decided to leave behind Forrest Whitaker, the, Strasbergian naturalistic method actor, and become a Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper type. He's decided to go weird. Because he's weird in Arrival too. He's doing this weird accent.
It's just weird and it doesn't work at all. Strange.
I agree.
Rogue, no pun intended, way.
That is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I loved it. Like, I give films out of 5 stars. I give it 4.5 stars.
So definitely watch this.
Definitely watch it. This from me, Jim.
Yeah, look, it's still a watch this from me. It's a just watch this.
Oh, just
from me.
Right.
Yeah.
It is now playing at a cinema near you, pretty much anywhere in the universe.
major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
If you're really doing this, I want to help.
Where you scream to watch that, watch this, and I'll dive down through this hairy flesh and ever-running blood.